6 weeks ago, I came here to Pearson's to have a full bike fit with Pro Bike Fit and Nads. Now we're back at Pearson's, and this time we're going to use one of their 1 hour sessions to take the bike fit from my other bike and put it on my new Winspace. How do we do it? What are the key measurements we need to get from one bike to the other?
Yeah, so what we need to do is bring up your old bike fit, look at some of the bike fit setup measurements. They're going to relate to things like the saddle height and the saddle fore and aft position, the distance to the bars and the height differences between. So basically here to just check on that, see if we can set it up close to the other bike and make any tweaks that we need to make for this one in particular.
So also, just as a quick caveat, this is a 1 hour session that you guys offer for anyone that has maybe had a bike fit before or...
Yeah, so initially that first bike fit we did, that was quite in depth. We covered quite a lot. We went through foot setup, we did the jig fit, we then tried to get that position as close as we can on your bike, and then it took real world testing. These sessions are designed to come back, give me your feedback, how did it feel? Do we need to make any changes? And with these shorter sessions, we actually just fine tuning everything, just making it as good as it can be now that you've had a go. So yeah, if you had a bike fit, this is a perfect kind of follow-up session. So firstly, I would just ask, how have you got on since having first bike fit? How did it feel? Did you notice any changes that were good, that were slightly unusual?
Yes, the original bike fit, the thing that I really liked about it was the way that we positioned basically my hips and my knees relative to the bottom bracket and effectively the pedals, right? The thing that I wasn't quite so worried about was the handlebars, because I didn't have the ability to change too much in terms of width. You know, I wasn't going to buy new bars necessarily, but we did change the height a little bit. But what I did, so I really got on with the new position of my waist,
legs engaging
with basically the drivetrain.
Yeah. So I think one of the bigger changes that we made in your bike fit was that saddle position where you're quite far forward, your knee was kind of slightly more over the pedal, saddle was quite pushed forward on the other bike. So what we did is push it back slightly, just alter the seat height just to engage that leg more. So looks better already on this bike, and kind of you're showing that the way you're pedaling is responding to it.
So that was the goal when I loosely set this up myself, was to make sure that my knee sat a bit more kind of just in front of that middle of the pedal, like the center line for the pedal.
The other thing to add to that is not only keeping your knee in a relative position to get a good smooth pedal stroke, it's also to control you on the bike so that you don't fall all your weight forward, you feel quite stable in the saddle and you can stay in that position. So although relatively new bike and you've kind of done a good job of setting up so far, is there anything to comment on in the way this feels in comparison to the old bike?
Yeah, so to my other bike, this feels like the front end is like a little bit closer to me, but I don't think that's because I've moved the saddle forward. It feels like the top tube is just a bit slightly different dimension.
Different geometry.
Even though they are technically like both 56s, obviously they have their own, which I actually really enjoy. So it feels like I'm not kind of reaching too much.
Yeah.
I feel quite comfortable kind of being down here. I actually have to say that I get on with this geometry from this frame like a lot more.
Good. Okay, let's get you off and let's have a look at those measurements and how the numbers match up. I've got your bike fit measurements that we did before, and I'm going to kind of just run through the 4 main areas that are useful for us to transfer from one to the other. So a couple of pieces of tools that help with this: tape measure or kind of a nice straight ruler, that will be really useful. Another equipment that not everybody will have access to is a spirit level. The reason this helps is that it allows us to draw a nice straight line through the centre of the bike, and that helps with one of the measurements, which is your saddle fore and aft. So setting that all up, bike nice and level, laser on through the centre of the bike, the last thing I've done was make a mark through the saddle position. Something that varies is saddles, lengths, widths, shape. So a very neutral position to start from is to take the saddle reference 8 centimeters, 80 millimeters wide, and that is where we're going to begin our saddle measurement. So 4 measurements we're going to go through right now is saddle height, saddle fore and aft, reach to the lever, and the drop between saddle and handlebar. We know crank length is already relevant, and we know bar width is already okay. So they're the 4 we're going to go through. We always start at the back of the bike because we need to get this assembled first before we then make the changes to the front of the bike. One of the things that we don't want to do too much of here is compensate this to improve the front position. So let's have a look and see where we're at. Saddle height I'm looking for is 774 from the center of saddle at that 8 centimeter mark right through to center of bike. So in millimeters we are at 772. So you did really close, within 2 millimeters of what we actually did on the initial fit.
I am just going to say that
that's pretty good.
I haven't measured anything. A lot of it was either not guesswork, but just feel.
Yeah. So 2 mil out. That's not bad. Not bad. Number 2 is saddle fore and aft. So from center of bike, we're measuring where that laser is positioned to the nose of the saddle. We were looking for 70 mil. So placing on there. Come on.
Is it?
There we go. Not bad. So a little bit of guesswork. Pretty good straight away. So might need to raise that 2 mil. Just check on if that makes any effect to the fore and aft. One other thing people do ask about as well is saddle tilt. I think we did make that measurement. We'll check that later as well. But initially, saddle height, saddle fore and aft. We're pretty good at the moment. We're just going to raise that by 2 mil. Going forward, we're going to look at measuring from the nose of the saddle to the back of brake hood. So where your hand sits into that hood, right here, that's where we measure we call it a reach. So reach from here out to the back of here. We're currently at 692. Check both sides. Just do it lower than that left lever, but 690. So 692, and from the bike fit we did, we ended up going out to 700, although originally it was quite a bit shorter than that. So we're within range at the moment. We're just, again, millimeters in differences between reach.
That was 692, so 8 mil.
8 mil shorter.
But I was saying my other bike felt
a little bit, long. So this actually might be a good thing that we're slightly shorter. And then last thing is looking at the difference in height between top of saddle to top of bar. Now that is something that varies on also the type of bike you ride. So this bike is going to be slightly more racy. The type of riding you're going to do on it is going to be in that style. So if that differs a little bit, that's not too bad. But essentially, 2 ways to measure what we call the drop. You can take a laser level off the top of the saddle, and then down to the bar. So we're currently at 101. Or without a laser level like that, another simple way again, if your bike is level, is go to that center of saddle position where we measure saddle height, take measure to the ground, and then coming across and looking at the difference in height to the bar. Again, 11. So, how does that match up to your fit? This bike is set slightly lower in the front end than the original bike, but it kind of is, I think you'll be okay with that, given the type of bike. Race bike. So, got to get aero. So, in terms of adjustment, just going to make a little tweak to the saddle height, and then we will maybe play around with lever positioning just to see if there's another position. But it actually, initially looked really good. And like you said, one of the feedbacks from your initial fit was that although we increased that reach because how your saddle was smoothed, you felt that actually it was just slightly a little bit long. So we'd probably, an aim for today would be to bring that back a little bit. So anything that you're doing in terms of adjusting the reach, ideally we don't want to do that by moving the back of the bike, because that's kind of your engine. That's where you're set and you're pedaling from, and we adjust it from the front of the bike. And luckily on your bike, if you come to the back of the seat post, you've actually got millimetre markings. That's going to help us drop down. So we only need to drop 2 of those. One thing to note, anytime you are changing your seat height, whether it's higher or lower, given the angle of the seat tube, you will then actually be affecting the fore and aft. So if you were to raise your saddle by a good amount, you would actually take the saddle further back from the centre of the bike. So this measurement would increase. We only raised it 2 millimetres, so it didn't actually have any impact to it. But had we gone any more, 8, 9, 10 millimetres, likely this saddle setback would have increased. So then you would have needed to move your saddle forward to compensate. So it's always something that it's worth checking again. Anytime you make an adjustment to one part of your bike, check what it might have done to the other. So with saddles, seat posts, raising or lowering, just recheck through the centre of the bike. On the front of the bike, all we may do is have a look at lever positioning. So yeah, although we are slightly shorter than the original fit, we're kind of happy with that at the moment.
So this is going to be a way to test that my...
Yeah, so this little tool is a lever setter. So what it's going to do is it's giving us a center point to then measure the distance across to both levers, just to ensure that we've got them in that kind of millimeter precise position. So this is actually a derailleur hanger tool that can get fitted to the lever setter. So what we'll do is we're going to take a contact point on the lever, which is just, for the sake of this, it's just going to be top of hood. Hold that tight, we then go across and we check, does it reach in there? We know that this one is set slightly lower than this one at the moment. We go back to it, it makes contact, come across slightly higher. So we then need to decide which one needs moving. I actually think in terms of measurement wise, this one's in a better position. So we just need to lower that one down to get it in an accurate place. So there we go. So that's nice, even lever position at the moment. We've got the same height, the same angle, just by using a lever setter. So let's give it a little bit of a power, nice and smooth. And also, what does it feel like when your hands go to the drop handlebars?
This feels really comfortable. I love this bike. I really like the joint. This feels, as you can probably tell from the way that I've set it up naturally, I like it.
Yeah.
Otherwise it wouldn't ended up. See, my last bike, when I brought it in, it was a mess, right? And you helped me create this feel, which felt good on that bike, and then because the bars are slightly narrower on this than my other one, and then because they've come in slightly, I've changed all the bits that I didn't like on the other bike are now perfect on this. So the important thing to point out though is that I used the last fit to create what I now have here, which is I used that fit that we had, so I ordered slightly shorter crank length.
Correct.
I've ordered a 95mm stem because I knew I didn't want that. I wanted that shorter reach.
Yeah. And
I ordered a narrower set of bars, even though this is one-piece bars.
Yeah.
So it might look like we've come in and not had to change everything.
But we have in advance.
But we've already prepared for that, and then this is the consequence of that, and this is setting it up.
And actually that goes back to the whole theory of having a bike fit before you go ahead and buy a new bike, so that you were able to make those changes ready for your new bike. You choose the bar size that's correct, the stem length, the seat position, and then assemble and build your new bike. So yeah, although it looks like we haven't made many changes today, we've made the changes in you building your new bike.
I would be so upset if
this
moment you were like, well, we're with 15, 20 mil out here
Yeah.
and 15, 20 mil out there,
Yeah.
then you'd be annoyed. And last question now, do I look good?
Yeah, I mean, let's go. Let's ride.
If I turn up to a race looking like this, do I look like I know what I'm doing?
You look Aero. Tucking that head down.
Yeah, coming in last.
Yeah.
So it's been fantastic to come in and take all my old measurements and put them from my old bike onto my new bike, which I'm really looking forward to racing this summer. And it's something that you can do within an hour. The important thing is that it gives you the confidence to know that everything is set up correctly. Because with me, building the bike was, maybe 5%, 10% guesswork. Putting my measurements in place is still a little bit of guesswork. So this now gives me the confidence and peace of mind to know that it's set up correctly. And all I've got to do now is worrying about riding it fast. Guys, I will see you on the next one.